Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Frank Mularcik and this is episode 6 of my portfolio spreadsheet video series where I just talk about my spreadsheet that I use to track my portfolio and all the different aspects of it and sort of explain exactly how it works. So if you guys want to kind of follow along, build your own, tweak some things, just get some ideas, I guess, and maybe some people can bounce some ideas in the comments below, stuff like that. So in this video, we're going to be talking actually about Google Apps Script, which is sort of similar to macros and Visual Basic within Excel, where you can basically write little scripts and have it do stuff within your sheet. So in my specific example, this is my portfolio spreadsheet, and what I do is I use some scripts to actually track the progress and the growth of my annual dividends, my projected annual dividends, and my projected 3-year dividend CAGR, which is not really projected actually. It's the trailing 3 years dividend CAGR, which hopefully will be what it is over the next 3 years and moving into the future. So basically what I do is I use a script that I wrote and it updates every month, or if I don't manually trigger it, then it will update every 45 days, these values here, and I can also manually trigger it. And then I also have these graphs here, which really have nothing to do with apps script. It's just a basic chart that is looking at this data. And it's kind of plotting the annual dividends and dividend CAGR over time. And then these are kind of plotting the percentage changes in those values every month as well. So basically these annual dividends values and the 3-year dividend CAGR, I'm just getting the current value, which is located in my summary spreadsheet. So I have this kind of summary view right here. So the annual dividend income, this value right here is what I want to look at. And also the average 3-year CAGR are the other value that I want to look at. So to actually get to our script that we can write, we go to extensions and then click on apps script here, and it's going to load this screen, and you can create a file. I think you already have a file called code.gs, or you can create one here if you don't have it, and then you can just type out your code like a normal some sort of code editor, and you can test run it here or run it in your program whenever you get there. So basically there's a few different functions I have in my code here, and the first one is on open. And how this works is this is sort of like an event, if you're familiar with using events. Basically, whenever the spreadsheet is opened, this on open function is called, and it does this stuff. So I'm declaring a few variables up here which just define my different spreadsheets. So sheet 1 is the summary sheet, which is where those values, that's this sheet right here, which is where these values that I want to get are. And then sheet 2 is the changes over time sheet, which is this sheet here, which is where I want to insert data. So I'm setting some variables, and then I'm also creating a variable for today, which is just using the date constructor there. And then I'm creating a constant here for the number of milliseconds in a day. So that's just 1,000 times 60 times 60 times 24. And that just makes it easier to use. So on my onOpen function, I'm just creating a variable here that represents the UI of my sheet. So you just use this get UI function. And there's documentation for a lot of this stuff on this developers.google.com website, which I'll definitely post a link to. There's a lot of useful information on here, and you can definitely search stuff as well and find it. So I'm basically creating a menu called scripts, and then I'm adding an item in that list or menu called update performance. So this first parameter here is called update performance, and then the second one is update, which that's actually the function that is going to get called when you click on that button. So if we go over to my portfolio, you can see there's a tab here called scripts, which on most people's spreadsheet probably isn't there. And when I click on that, I get this update performance, and when I click on that, it's going to run this function update, which I defined down here. So this is just the interface for allowing someone to manually edit, or not edit, but run this script. And the other way I do it is actually checking if I want to run it, which I'm basically doing right here. and based on, how many days it's been since I ran it before. So the first thing we actually have to do is find the most recent date. So if we look here, this most recent date, the last item in the list, is constantly changing as we add more. So what I do is I go down the list and look for the first cell that's basically empty. So I'm just using a for loop and sheet2.get range. So that gets the range, which is the row, comma, the column, and the rows and columns, their index starts at 1. That's something to keep in mind. So I want to look at the first column and look through basically every row until I find the first one that's value equals just empty string. And if that's the case, then I'm going to create this new variable called date to check, and it's basically just going to be equal to the date that's in that cell. And then I'm going to break out of that for loop, and then I'm going to check if the, I don't know why I did it like this, but I have an if statement that says if the date to check is basically saying if date to check plus 45 is greater than today's date, that means that date to check is less than 45 days in the past. And so if that's the case, I don't really want to do anything. And if date to check is more than 45 days in the past, then I want to call this update function and update and add a new row basically. I don't know why I really did it this way, but that's how I did it. Probably be a lot easier just to say if this statement here is less than today, then I want to update it, but still works. So then this update function, what I'm doing is I know where I need to update the values, where I need to insert those values, but I don't know what values I need to insert yet. So now I have to go into sheet 1 and check those values. So I'm just iterating through sheet 1 from row 30 to row 100 because generally, most likely, my values that I want to look at are going to be between column 30 and row 30 and row 100. And I'm looking through and I'm getting the value, and then I'm checking the value if it's equal to annual dividend income or average 3-year CAGR. And then I'm setting what I'm calling dividend row, div row, and CAGR row, which are the rows that each of those values are located in. So if those statements are true, then I'm setting those variables equal to the current row basically. And then I'm just going to loop through the second sheet. This changes over time, and again I'm going to look for where the value is equal to empty string. And if you really think about it, I could probably have kind of refactor this into the same function in which I was checking the date here, but not really that big of a deal. And I probably wrote this like a year ago, so I was definitely not as good at writing code back then, and I didn't really understand nearly as much as I do now. So I've definitely learned a lot in the past, and just looking back at this, it's kind of not the best coding style per se, but that's all right. We're moving forward with it, but we're just checking here where the next row is in this sheet that we need to insert the items to, which we pretty much just already did. So it's not really that useful there. We could easily just use that variable that we already had. But anyway, that's what we do here. And then we're just getting the actual dividend and CAGR values, which are from sheet 1, and we're using the row is going to be the dividend row and CAGR row, and then the column is going to be column 3 because these values here that we want are in column C, which is column 3. And then basically the last thing we're going to do is we're going to set the value in sheet 2 in the same row in columns 1, 2, and 3. We're going to set the date, and then the dividend value, and then the CAGR value. And then these percent changes are just going to update on their own because they're just formulas based on these two values here. So these percent changes will just update on their own. So that's pretty much it. It's really simple, honestly, but just wanted to kind of explain how it works. And you can see if we run this here by clicking this update performance button, it'll add a new row in. And basically, if I didn't do that, and for some reason I forgot to do that for 45 days, then it would automatically add a value in there without me having to click that button there. So that's kind of how that works. And another thing that I will say is most of the time when you try to run this the first time, there's sort of like a warning, are you sure you want to give this script access to your spreadsheet? And you have to click like the advanced button and then click allow. It's a little bit annoying and sometimes hard to figure out. I'll try to put a screenshot up here of what it looks like. I talked about it in one of my previous videos I made probably like a year ago, so I'll put a little screenshot up there with kind of the buttons you need to click. But that's kind of what you need to know. And let me know if that made sense. If anyone has any questions about anything I said, I'm definitely not the best at explaining these things, especially when my code doesn't make the most sense, just because I just used H for some variables and stuff like that. So definitely did not have the best coding style, I guess, back then, but you know, we're making progress and it does get the job done. So at the end of the day, I think that's what matters. So again, let me know if you have any questions. Just want to thank you for sticking around to the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.